Well, it was a hell of a lot better than The Dead Don't Die. Oh my god, it's almost like two different directors. So Only Lovers Left Alive was really, really cool. And the first thing that I just finished watching it, it was like I had to watch it over a couple of days because I kept falling asleep, not because I was bored by the movie. I didn't have time and I was tired. But the first thing that went through my mind is plausible vampires. It's not the vampires. As much as I loved Interview with the Vampire, it won't necessarily be about them, just a marauding bunch of creatures who could easily give themselves away. Adam and Eve were very, 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 very careful, in how they got their blood. Just meticulous in their anonymity, where they didn't even see other vampires, and plus they've lived so long, and they were probably just tired, or at least Adam was just tired of living and seeing basically everything over and over and over again, and just seeing the Adam never mentioned the progress of humanity. He focused on, he dehumanized them. He called them zombies. Focused on the negative qualities of them and just the patterns that we go through. And Eve was, I guess, a little more optimistic, a little more romantic. But it kind of all boiled down to finding the humanity in the vampires, having their close circle of friends, keeping quiet, but at the same time, Adam was this famous rock star. Now, one of the few things, this movie was 2013, post-internet age. I think it would be very, very, very hard for Adam to keep the anonymity that he did. It was starting to leak a little bit, because you saw the fans gather outside his house. But as far as when he did have to kill Ian, when Eve's sister had to kill, Ava had to kill Ian, I don't think it would have been kept a secret that long. And maybe it didn't, because they did flee pretty quick. But I think he would have been tracked easily, more easily by a lot more people. He did live in a secluded part of Detroit. But, that being said, there was a certain plausibility to it. And you just kind of saw the patience within the vampires. Within some. Ava was very impulsive and very impatient, but maybe she was a relatively young vampire. Old relatively, but still very much impulsive and just wanting more out of her life, as opposed to the seclusion of Adam. But I thought of the plausibility, buying the blood. The blood was getting dirtier just because of how humans pollute themselves, according to the vampires. When Ava drank Ian, she was like, "Oh, I'm not feeling well," and it's like, "Well, he's in the music industry," so it implied most likely substance use. And that was another thing about the movie. It implied a lot of things, or just didn't explain things at all, and I'm usually not a fan of that, but I didn't mind it in this part. It was more of showing and not telling in a lot of aspects. So they didn't directly explain why they wore the gloves, but you saw when Eve touched things, she was able to get the age of things. So their senses are probably so heightened and so attuned that they have to protect themselves from everything that's going on around them. I love how they just, their knowledge of things are so vast, because it's like, well, yeah, they've been around for hundreds of years. They got to learn something. Their conversations are quite heightened because they've probably had so many conversations, and every conversation imaginable. So it's finding something new. They had the mentor in Marlowe, in John Hurt's character, and John Hurt was always a great presence to see on screen. So he was like their mentor, a lot older than them, saw it, and even they saw their future with him. He got some bad stuff, and it did not affect him well, and ended up killing him. So it shows the evolving or de-evolving world of this movie, at least Ava has a heightened sense of either she's some kind of psychic, she can tell the future, or she's just been around long enough that she's so good at predicting what's going to happen. So the water wars are going to happen, and it's going to become harder and harder to get the blood they need from somewhat ethical sources. The blood they got from Jeffrey Wright, I forgot that the mysterious doctor played by Jeffrey Wright was an unethical means, but they weren't killing anybody to get it, and the blood they got was just so from their minds pure that it was a euphoric sense after they had it. So plausibility, and what happens, it seems like they didn't see each other for a while, and they were so in love with each other, but a couple of years or however many years it was probably seems like nothing when you're hundreds of years old. So it's just so interesting, being locked down for so long due to the pandemic, and I really hope you're all getting vaccinated so we can all get through this. And now that the numbers are going up and people may be driven back into their homes, not as terrible as it was a year ago, but still, it's like, we thought we were out of it, and now it's back to the apprehension. But you saw Adam in his home doing his thing, collecting his guitars, writing his music. It's kind of like what people were doing when they were locked down and just looking for things to do. So I definitely related to that aspect, even though obviously this movie didn't know that a pandemic was coming. So it and then it takes us to Ava, who again is Adam and Eve were very predictable, and they trusted each other, and they were so careful on what they did. And you throw Ava into the mix and she messes things up. She messes things up where they had a good system going, and then they had to flee. They had to flee that system because of Ava's actions. They had to get away. So it goes to show someone can throw, can break that system down, and then it becomes a house of cards, and they have to do something different. So they go to Tangier, and they just can't find the blood that they need, and which drives them to it left this unsaid. Either they killed the two lovers at the end, or they turned them, so you didn't know exactly what they did. Maybe they did turn them, because Adam did kind of say to Eve, "Well, how romantic of you," but we didn't know for sure. So yeah. And it goes to show the compulsion they have for blood. When they see someone cut themselves, it's like, oh my God, I have to have this. And it's just kind of controlling themselves to not do this, because if they do kill someone, they're outed. And it goes to show the planning that they've had to not really be outed like they are. So I think one other unrealistic aspect of this movie, possibly, is that if vampires did exist, we probably would know something about them by now, considering just there's so much information and surveillance out there that I don't know if it would be possible to hide like they were hiding. But I think it's cool how they kind of said Adam was such a musician, and then Marlowe was such a writer, and they would pass their works off, and Adam recorded his own works. So it was really cool. The performances all around from the four main actors. Jeffrey Wright had a small part, and Mia Wasikowska had a small part, but all the performances, especially Tom Hiddleston and Tilda Swinton, were very, very good. It was a slow-moving movie, which I've come to appreciate more than what I did in the past, and it was cool hanging around with Adam and Eve, and just to see the daily grind and what they go through. So it's one of these movies I've been meaning to see for a really long time, and I finally got a chance to see it. So it's kind of cool just watching a movie and having it end, as opposed to the TV series that go on and on and on. There are pros and cons to both, but I love them both. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. Very cool stuff. So I like vampires, and I like different takes on vampires as opposed to the traditional, hey, I'm flying around, I'm a bat, I'm going to bite you, oh, wooden stake, blah. No, this was a different feel and quite a unique feel. So that is it for me, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Please get vaccinated, and please wear a mask where you go, just to, have some kind of social pressure on the people who aren't vaccinated to get them wearing masks. I do hope mask mandates arrive through private businesses as well as public institutions sooner rather than later, so this pandemic can become an endemic, and we can go on without so many people getting very, very sick and so many people dying and causing chaos and havoc. And one of the ways to not cause chaos and havoc is to speak up wherever they are, through your elected officials, even through something like a school board meeting. Speak up, let them know how you feel, be on the side of science, be on the side of civility, be on the side of knowledge, be on the side of the greatest good, the least harm, and where the most people can be helped, especially the most vulnerable among us. So you can get your knowledge from credible sources, newspapers, subscriptions, New York Times, digital subscriptions to New York Times, NPR, USA Today, Washington Post, credible sources, not influencers, not celebrities who just have the platforms now just to say basically anything. You got to go to the experts. You got to go to the consensus on this, and that's one way of getting out of it, as well as banding together. All right, so you can find me on, where am I? On Twitter at MMAM Podcast. You can find me on Facebook at MMAM Podcast. You can email me at MMAMpodcast@gmail.com. Stay safe, everybody. Bye.